Your summer diet is underway, but you may be wondering, when do you actually stop the suffering? Because you want to know where the finish line is. Your personality is even in a calorie deficit. Well, let me answer that, because in this video, I'm going to talk about the best time to stop your diet before your holiday. And guess what? It is not the answer that you think. I'm also going to answer what you're likely saying behind the screens that is along the lines of, I'm just going to stop the day that I go on holiday, James. Wrong. And then after that, I'm also going to explain what you should do if you're not going to reach your goal that you set out, because that's quite common, usually because of piss poor planning. And finally, I'll explain how and when you should finish your diet properly, so you can enjoy your holiday for months. You are welcome. So before we get into this, you might be asking, why is it actually important when I stop my diet? Which is a fair point, friend. I'm going to get into some more points later on. But one of the biggest issues is, it could be a massive reason you gain weight after you finish your diet. Because if you gain weight shortly after your diet finishes, especially more than what you started, it is not successful, is it? There aren't many people out there buzzing that they lost weight and then gained it back 4 weeks later, which is what most of you do out there. You usually jump right back into another diet and start that yo-yo dieting phase. It could last literal years. And why do you do that, you might be asking? Well, sit tight and find out in the points coming up. But you're probably thinking, this video is pointless, James. I'll just stop my diet the day that I go on the holiday. Duh, you fucking idiot. Which you have probably done every holiday so far. Am I right? And where has that actually got you in terms of long-term health? Has there actually been any long-term benefits gained from this method? I didn't think so. I'm going to keep you right. And let me explain to you why stopping your diet on the day that you go on holiday is a bad idea. Think of it this way, alright? When you lose weight, you're technically starving yourself, to varying degrees depending on sizes, how much weight you've lost, how much you're going to lose, etc. Starving yourself sounds dramatic, but it is technically true. But in the most generic sense, that is what you're actually doing. So you're depleting yourself, and your body is desperately screaming out for energy in the form of food. And if you do a lot of cardio, it is also screaming at you to sit on your arse and preserve that energy. And at the same time, it's also thinking and panicking, oh my God, I'm not wanting this kind of shit to happen to me ever again. I want to eat a fuckload of food and then some more on top of that, and I want to sit down more, and I want to build up energy stores just so I never have to feel like that again. So the minute that you stop your diet, you're going to be craving foods and have all those feelings I've just mentioned. And it won't be things like spinach and broccoli and cauliflower, is it? It's the decadent, energy-dense ones we all know and love. This isn't a big problem if you manage it properly, but you don't, do you? Moving from a calorie deficit, which is where you lose weight, to a maintenance diet where you maintain your weight and start to feel a little bit more normal isn't overly difficult in the comfort of your own home. Or it shouldn't be anyway, and that's on paper at least. But if you're trying to do that before you go on holiday, how do you really think that's going to fare? At your all-inclusive resort, endless amounts of food and booze on offer every day, and things like new foods to try. And then on top of that, you're going to be the laziest you've ever been in the past 14 weeks or so, or however long you've dieted, because all you're going to do is lie on your sun lounger all day and swim about in the pool and lie on the beach. Because let me tell you, I would struggle at an all-inclusive resort right after I've dieted for a number of weeks. And granted, not everyone's holidays are bottomless bowls of food, but it's an excuse everyone uses to let their hair down. The minute you get to that airport, you're spending £8 on pints at 3 AM in the morning at Witherspoons just because you're on holiday. So there is thousands and thousands of calories consumed before you've even got on the plane, because you're on holiday. You're maybe now starting to see how it can go downhill fairly quickly and pretty much erase all your previous week's hard work. And you're hopefully now understanding why the period after your diet is arguably more important than the actual period of dieting itself, because it's fairly common. People who diet are notoriously guilty for packing on weight immediately after losing it, because of the fragile state your body's in of craving excess amounts of food after your diet, even more than usual after the ordeal you've put it through. It's also not uncommon to put on even more weight than you started. Craving food after a diet is normal, but you're probably just not managing it properly, unfortunately. The after effects of dieting is almost like a long-term hangover that many people don't understand. There's obviously other caveats to these reasons of gaining weight, but I'm just speaking about it in the most generic sense. We've not even scratched the surface of you over-restricting yourself, following terribly recommended diets, not eating foods that you enjoy. No wonder you pack the weight back on if you're following stuff like that. Losing weight and keeping it off for some of you will feel impossible, and you might even feel like a failure if you don't get to your goal or fall off the wagon in terms of following your diet. But instead of feeling like a failure, maybe do this instead, which is this crazy thing. You just change your goals and move the goalposts, because if you change them, you can't ever really fail. In this day and age, we're quite hard on ourselves when you've got kids running about, a job to worry about, and a mortgage to pay, and then you're throwing your health issues on top of that. Anyone who says these kinds of things are just excuses probably doesn't have all three of them to juggle at the same time. It's either that, or they're already juggling the three things and have their health in order, which is an earned skill, but it's not as easy for some as it is for others. These people saying that juggling a mortgage, kids, and their job are just excuses, them saying that is just an even shittier excuse to not help you. But I'm going to offer some free help in a minute. But the other thing you could do is just pack in that idea of trying to lose weight and focus on enjoying your holiday with your family. Just be happy with whatever progress that you've made, and then you address your health when you get back. The laughs and the memories you have with your family are arguably more important, and I'd like to think you not focusing on your health for a few weeks wouldn't cause that much of an impact. Hopefully. There's always things you could be doing on the lead up to your holiday, so you're ready and raring to go the minute you come back. Like signing up to my emails because they help any dad that wants to lose weight in the laziest way possible, and also offer up ideas and solutions to common problems you may face in your home that's stopping you lose weight. So give them a go because they are free after all. I'll offer the solutions before lightly though, because this is the only free pass you're going to get from me, because the above is only acceptable if you're actually trying to do something about your weight when you get back, and also look into why you didn't reach your goals or why you failed it. There is nothing wrong with a bit of self-reflection and figuring out what went wrong, because most of you don't do that. You just say, I failed my diet. And then that's it. But why did you fail the diet? What went wrong? Did I listen to some plum's terrible nutrition advice online? Was I hating the idea of dieting before I even started? Was I eating foods that I didn't enjoy? Was my life too busy to give it a go? Did I really give it the attention it needed? And if you ask yourself the right questions, you might actually successfully diet for once. And you'll get to a point when you're actually in class shape before you go on holiday, which leads me on to where you should stop your diet in an ideal world, which is ideally finishing the diet the week or two before you go. And then during this period, you want to start eating a little bit more food to replenish and refuel the depleted state you've been in. For the past number of weeks, you were in a deficit. And it'll hopefully get your mind out that food-focused state that you were in. And then granted, this might actually take longer than a week or two before you go. But beginning it 1 or 2 weeks before an all-inclusive holiday, better than starting it the day before. And this advice is regardless of what stage you're at with your goal. And what I mean by that is, say you want to lose 10 kilos before you go on holiday, and you lost 7, for example, which is a good effort, by the way. You still finish that diet a week or two before you go, and not chase that extra 3 kilos. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, you don't want to go on a holiday depleted and famished the day before you go. Otherwise, you're in jeopardy of putting that 7 kilos you lost back on very quickly after your holiday, which would be completely rendering your diet that you've worked so hard at utterly pointless, because you have nothing to show for it. In the weeks or months after your holiday, weeks and weeks of dieting and cardio in a compromised state for absolutely fuck all. What's really hard to come to terms with is when you finish your diet, it hasn't really, because the period after your diet, there is still a bit of management and accountability required, unfortunately. This health and diet malarkey is for life, friend, which sounds absolutely horrible, but the last time you didn't manage your health properly, you were searching for answers on YouTube to change that, weren't you? Wondering when you're going to see your willy in the shower again because of your overhanging gut, and thankfully you have found evidence-based advice from my good self. And it is for free, and will be for the foreseeable future. What is also free is emails I send out over 31 days that's going to help you lose a few kilos by making smart, simple choices, whilst allowing you flexibility in your diet that also allows you to have your favourite foods. Flexibility is a key to a healthy life, friend, so sign up and find out, and I'll get you on the right track finally. Ultimately though, I'm hoping this advice doesn't come across like your holiday has to be full of the foods that you dieted on and massively boring. I'm sounding like a massive buzzkill here with this advice, but I do have your best interests at heart, because if you ask any healthy person out there, it is all about balance. Personally, I can't really think of a life now that I don't look after myself, because it compromises time with my wife and kids. The ultimate goal for any holiday is for you to enjoy it with your family, but not at the expense of your health, because who knows, and maybe the last holiday you have if your health doesn't improve, which is harsh and morbid, but tell me I'm wrong. But whilst you're away, you probably won't be able to eat and drink the amount that you want, and you'll still have to make smart and sensible choices, which you should actually be doing every day anyway, for the rest of your life, from now on, shouldn't you? So you don't end up like the fat mess that you were before. And see, if you've planned your diet correctly, you should actually be finished 2 or 3 weeks before you go anyway. That's how I would plan it for my clients. So there's no frantic rush to the finish line and starving yourself. It would be a casual stroll of happiness and smiles. So they go away refreshed, refueled, and ready to actually enjoy their holiday, rather than sitting on a sun lounger craving foods, feeling knackered, depleted and depressed, and being a miserable arsehole. Fuck that. Anyway, we're getting into more detail on the subject of getting you ready for your summer holiday, which is exciting. I've got a number of these videos planned and coming your way, but you might have missed the first video here, which is all about getting your summer diet started, and things that you shouldn't be doing, which I do think are quite important, because you want to do your summer diet right, don't you? And actually get results. So give it a watch. That is me done anyway. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next video.